Part 24. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 233. In the important town of Longtan. The demonic energy in Zhangji's body lasted for more than 10 minutes before it ended. As he exhaled, the dark demonic energy that burst out around his body was absorbed into his body like a sea absorbing hundreds of rivers. Then he opened his eyes and saw Chen Ronghuo standing calmly in front of him. After seeing Chen Ronghuo, Zhangji's eyes flashed, and he did not speak immediately, as if he was hesitating about something. Chen Ronghuo knew through the identification of ancient books that Zhangji's body was automatically unlocked when the demonic energy burst out. Why, you don't want to pretend that the seal in your body has not been unlocked yet? Looking at Zhangji, who was born with a wretched face, Chen Ronghuo said lightly. I dare not, Lord Chen, spare my life, I just woke up, I don't know what happened just now. Zhangji was frightened for a moment. Then he knelt down in front of Chen Ronghuo with a thud, without any image of a third-level cultivator, and begged for mercy from Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo was speechless for a while. Finally, he knew why this guy, as a third-level cultivator, could only become the deputy commander of the guard team of the Black Horse Town. He shook his head. He didn't know whether he was right or wrong to save Zhangji this time. At the same time, he spent so much effort to pull this guy back from the gates of hell, but this guy actually said he didn't know, which also made him furious. He said coldly, "You don't know what happened just now, do you need me to remind you?" Zhangji stole a glance at Chen Ronghuo's face, thought about it, and suddenly shouted, "No, I remember. I don't know what happened in my body just now, and a breath that wanted to destroy me burst out. Just when I was about to give up under that breath, I felt an external force invading my soul and saved me from that destructive breath." Speaking of this, Zhangji suddenly looked at Chen Ronghuo and said excitedly, "Lord Chen, it wasn't you who used that external force to save me just now. It was me." Chen Ronghuo nodded. Wu. Zhangji burst into tears when he heard this. He crawled from the ground to Chen Ronghuo's side, hugged Chen Ronghuo's thigh and said, "Lord, you don't know, I thought I was dead just now. I am afraid of death. I am the most afraid of death. I have been afraid of death since I was a child. Thank you for saving me just now, Lord. Don't worry, from now on, I will follow you to the death. I am a third-level cultivator. Maybe my strength is nothing in your eyes, Lord, but it is not bad in the area of Beiwu Island. I hope you can not despise me." Chen Ronghuo looked at Zhangji, who was hugging his thigh, frowning. What can I say about this man? Through the identification of ancient books, after Zhangji said that he would follow him to the death, he did have some loyalty to him. But Zhangji's loyalty to him was not high, only more than 20 points. With a loyalty of more than 20 points, I am afraid that he would run away when encountering a little danger. Not to mention following him to the death. After thinking about it, Chen Ronghuo really regretted saving Zhang Lin this time. Should I kill him? A thought grew in his heart. Forget it. I can't kill people all the time. My mentality seems to be a little problematic recently. Why do I always want to kill people? Chen Ronghuo shook his head. While shaking his head, he looked at Zhangji, who was still hugging his thigh and crying, and even cried his snot on his thigh. Suddenly, a trace of ferocity appeared on his face. Bang! Suddenly, the blood in his body exploded, and he exerted force suddenly. With a bang, he kicked Zhangji away like a human sandbag. Plop! Zhangji flew far away and landed dozens of meters away. He spit out a mouthful of blood and looked depressed. You want to follow me with your sloppy appearance? Chen Ronghuo snorted coldly, with a cold momentum and a look of contempt, and his look of looking down on Zhangji was completely revealed. He really looked down on Zhangji. At the same time, Although Zhang Ji only flew a few dozen meters away, his landing did not cause much vibration. But his kick just now was definitely not light. In the distance, Zhang Ji felt the cold breath emanating from Chen Ronghuo, and his whole body stiffened immediately. Before, he thought that Chen Ronghuo rescued him from the gates of hell and wanted to subdue him, and thought that he could finally escape with his life this time. But he didn't expect Chen Ronghuo to turn his face. Just now, Chen Ronghuo's kick was nestled in his heart, and he was caught off guard, which directly injured him. He even seemed to be out of breath and fainted directly. At the same time, he felt the cold momentum emanating from Chen Ronghuo, and he knew that Chen Ronghuo might really have the intention to kill him. Lord, my words are all from the heart, and I really don't mean to deceive you. Please believe me. He shouted at Chen Ronghuo. But this time, he didn't dare to step forward. He was really afraid of death. Seeing Zhang Ji's appearance, Chen Ronghuo glanced at him, and then used the ancient book to identify his attributes again. As a result, he found that Zhang Ji's status changed to seriously injured, and his loyalty, which was originally more than 20 points, actually doubled to more than 40 points after he kicked him out. MMP. This guy's physique looks a bit special. After identifying this, he cursed in his heart. But no matter what, he has found a way to improve Zhang Ji's loyalty. Although he is not sure whether this method can be useful in the long run, he cannot return to Greenwater Bay Town now. He is seriously short of people. If Zhang Ji, a third-level cultivator, can be used by him, it would be good. As for this guy's unreliable character, he can only ignore it for the time being. When Chen Ronghuo dealt with Zhang Ji, to the west of Longtan Town, the three masters and apprentices who came to the God's continent from the sealed demon land and practiced the Ghost One path made a plan and took off into the air. They wanted to find a village on the island and inquire about the situation here, but suddenly saw a group of 70 or 80 blue lightning birds flying from a distance. Master, these birds don't look easy to mess with. Should we avoid them? The short and fat man next to the middle-aged cultivator looked at the blue lightning birds in the distance and asked. Why are you hiding? The pale-faced middle-aged cultivator shook his head and said nonchalantly, no matter how hard these birds are to deal with, the ones chasing us are just a group of first and second level little guys. Let's speed up and shake them off. As long as we shake them off, they shouldn't chase us. Of course, the most important thing is that they can catch up. There's still 11 o'clock in the evening. Thanks to I'm already discouraged and book friend 201812301653361331 for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 234. This middle-aged cultivator who came to the continent of gods from the land of demons is named Tong Kun. Among his two apprentices, the short and fat one is named Xiedong Jun. A young man who is as pale as him, neither tall nor thin, is named Xuanhuan. After Tong Kun finished speaking, the three of them immediately accelerated their speed and flew away into the distance. Chirp! Behind him, a group of 70 or 80 blue electric thunderbirds screamed loudly. However, the wings of this group of blue electric thunderbirds flapped rapidly. Even under the leadership of a second-level blue electric thunderbird, which summoned the power of the ancient Thunderbird King to bless all the thunderbirds, they could not catch up with the three of them. These birds are very talented and powerful. They can actually gather the power of 70 or 80 birds together to summon the power of ancient demons and exert half-step third-level strength. Tong Kun glanced back, then turned his head and said, unfortunately, if these birds can bring the power of more birds together, they will cause some trouble for us, but now. Master, suddenly, the short and fat Xiedong Jun looked back and suddenly trembled, the birds are moving. Don't make such a fuss. So what if there are more blue electric birds in the flock? Tong Kun scolded, I don't even have to look back. I can tell just by listening to the sound that there are more blue electric birds in the flock. There are definitely not many people coming out to chase us, right? Tongkan was extremely calm. He had already heard the whistling sound when the 70 or 80 blue electric birds were chasing them. This shows that these blue electric birds make quite a lot of noise when flying. But now, he heard no sound at all. Apparently, not many of the blue electric birds separated to chase them. Yes. Short and fat Xie Dongjun nodded, but after nodding, he quickly shook his head and said, "No, no, master, those blue electric birds did not come to chase us separately, they all caught up." Although his words were somewhat unclear, his face was pale, but he spoke very fast, and he was obviously extremely frightened. "Are you kidding me?" Tongkan's face didn't look good. But subconsciously, he still looked back. But after this glance, his expression suddenly changed and his expression became stiff. In the distance, a huge flock of blue electric thunderbirds gathered together, like a blue sea of electricity, gathering all the power of the blue electric thunderbirds. Summoning the power of the ancient Thunderbird King, he exerted a speed comparable to that of a 4th-level peak practitioner. The large group of blue lightning thunderbirds, carrying rolling wind and thunder, looked like huge blue thunder and lightning slashing down from the sky, and quickly chased the three of them. Compared with the huge flock of blue electric thunderbirds, the figures of the three people were like three children standing under the towering mountain peaks, competing in height with the mountains. "Let's go!" Tongkan roared, and then burst out with the strength of the mid-level 4th level, quickly distanced himself from the two disciples, and rushed towards the distance. Seeing that Tongkan didn't care about the two of them, and might even have the idea of letting them delay him for time, the short and fat Xie Dongjun and the pale young man Xuanhuan both cursed in their hearts and quickly went to the ground. Landed. Escape. With their strength, it is estimated that within a few breaths, they would be overtaken by the huge flock of blue electric thunderbirds. So the two of them thought of landing on the ground first to see if they could fool them. Call. What surprised the two of them was that after they landed, a large group of blue electric thunderbirds whizzed past their heads and chased after Tongkan in the distance. Among the birds, only 70 or 80 blue electric thunderbirds were separated. They circled several times above their heads as a warning, and then it was over. The two of them looked at each other, feeling like they were surviving a disaster. Boom! At this time, a group of blue lightning birds that looked like a sea of blue electricity suddenly gathered their strength while chasing Tongkan, and shot out a huge fork-shaped lightning bolt, which went straight towards Tongkan. Tongkan was always paying attention to the movement behind him. He felt the powerful energy contained in this fork-shaped lightning and was shocked. "Damn it!" he cursed in his mind. When he was in the demon-sealed land, he learned from a cultivator who entered the demon-sealed land on Beiwu Island that there were only a few 4th-level cultivators on the two islands, Beiwu Island and Black Mist Island. There are special treasures that can resist the swallowing of the demon-sealed land. Other practitioners who reach the 4th level will be swallowed into the demon-sealed land. He also said that there are very few powerful practitioners on Beiwu Island and Black Mist Island. But now, as soon as he arrived, he encountered such a terrifying existence. Wrong. Suddenly, something moved in his heart. There has been a change in the demon-sealed land, and there will be a change in the continent of the gods. Could these blue electric birds also come from other places? Until then, he didn't realize it until then. But he thought of the key to the matter, but it was too late. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the huge fork-shaped lightning came behind him. He threw out secret treasures one by one, and used secret techniques. He tried his best to resist, but his body still roared and was hit by lightning and fell to a spherical stone dozens of meters high on the ground. His whole body was charred. After Tongkan landed, although he felt seriously injured, his desire to survive still made him struggle to stand up immediately and wanted to continue to escape. But after getting up, he unexpectedly discovered that the blue lightning thunderbirds above him, which looked like a sea of thunder, did not come down to chase him after he landed, but flew away. Could it be that this thing only chases people in the sky? Seeing this scene, Tong Kun's face suddenly became extremely ugly, and even a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth under his anger. Damn it, wait until I refine the 10,000 ghosts banner and use it to increase my strength to the 4th stage, and then I will come to destroy you. He spat out the remaining blood in his mouth with a sound of "puh," and thought viciously. Huh. Just when he had just thought of this, he felt a gust of evil wind coming from the side, followed by a huge circular shadow, and then enveloped him below. The cold wind was chilling, and Tong Kun's face was stiff. He quickly looked up and saw that the ball-shaped stone that was dozens of meters high just beside him suddenly grew 2 wings, soared up, and pressed down on him from above. What the hell is this? Tong Kun was so angry that he felt that he was really unlucky today. He had just come out of the demon sealing land and encountered the blue lightning thunderbird. He had just escaped from the mouth of the blue lightning thunderbird and encountered such a weird thing again. And he sensed that this weird thing must have the strength of the 4th level. Die. At this time, he was already seriously injured. He wanted to escape, but was worried about encountering other weird things again. So he was ruthless and performed a forbidden technique. A huge black ghost hand condensed from his body in front of his chest. The ghost hand seemed to stretch out from his chest and grab upwards. Boom! The ghost hand touched the huge stone ball and made a loud noise. The next moment, the strange stone ball with the strength of the 4th level was shattered by his ghost hand and died in one blow. However, after the giant stone ball monster died, Tong Kun spit out blood again and half knelt on the ground. That's why he didn't see that after the giant stone ball died, a pile of gold, silver, and copper coins and several treasures shining with various colors suddenly burst out of its body. A group of treasures fell in a mess. However, one of the treasures, which was like a small mountain, suddenly became larger when it fell, and suddenly became tens of meters high. With a bang, Tong Kun was caught off guard and smashed him down. In the distance, the short and fat Xie Dongjun and the pale-faced young man Ma Zixuan quickly ran here after the blue lightning thunderbirds returned. Master! When they saw that Tong Kun was suppressed by a small mountain that exploded from the stone ball monster after killing the stone ball monster, their faces were extremely exciting. I'm fine. A gnashing voice sounded from the bottom of the stone mountain. Xie Dongjun and Ma Zixuan ran over and immediately found that Tong Kun's body was only pressed under the stone mountain, and his head, which was charred by the blue lightning thunderbird, was still exposed. In this way, it was like Sun Wukong being suppressed under the Five-Finger Mountain. Longtan Town. After temporarily sparing Zhangji, Chen Ronghuo quickly dealt with the affairs of Longtan Town. In fact, with his ability, if he really wanted to return to Greenwater Bay Town, it would not be impossible. After all, he had the ancient book, and by consuming some soul power and some energy from the ancient book, he could completely deduce a relatively safe map. But if he returns to Greenwater Bay Town, the tens of thousands of people in Longtan Town and the people in the villages that depend on Longtan Town will probably be in trouble by the large number of monsters that suddenly appeared on the island. The people in Longtan Town itself, plus the people in those villages, all counted together, there are definitely 70,000 to 80,000, or even 100,000. If he protects so many people well and turns them all into his own subjects, they can definitely contribute a lot of faith power to him. So his plan is to refine the original power of the 2 black and white mist evil spirits that the big river crab sent over, and attract the floating island where Longtan Town is located to the vicinity of Greenwater Bay Town. Gather the people in the villages near Longtan Town in Longtan Town. And during this period, open a safe passage connecting to the direction of Greenwater Bay Town. Of course, in addition to this, he also wants to experiment with the ability of the experience crystal, and see what treasures can be exploded by killing the monsters from the black magic star. In addition, Longton Town is so big, and there are many wasted geniuses in it. He can use the power of ancient books and the power of his left hand to consolidate his foundation again during this period of time and build a strong team. Yes. Of course, Zhang Zi's Black Silk Army can also be tried. Although Zhang Zi looks wretched and is indeed a bit wretched, he is not worried about any problems if he lets Zhang Zi manage a group of women. Because when he helped Zhang Zi break through the gate of hell, he touched out many attributes from his body, including a large number of attributes of a certain part. And those attributes were not returned after he touched them out. I feel that it is quite interesting, so I'm going to set up a bowl and ask for an order. In addition, from today on, I will cherish my fat body and stop staying up late, so this is the chapter. I will write a detailed outline later and go to bed. Thanks to the big guy for the 10,000 coin reward, for the 600 coin reward, for the 500 coin reward, and the book friend for the reward again. I have written 13,000 words today and found that I still have some potential, so I will try to write as much tomorrow as today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Peng. Chapter 235. In front of the Lord's mansion in the important town of Longton. Chen Ronghuo had a chair moved, sat on it, and watched comfortably as the tens of thousands of residents of Lushwiven town formed a long line and quickly passed by him. In doing so, he naturally uses his own unique method to select useful people. Go to the left. Go to the right. Behind me. You go. He divided everyone into categories. The first type is the person who handles internal affairs. This is a must. Otherwise, even if he is alone, he will be exhausted. One type is the warrior. It turned out that there were hundreds of first-order warriors among the 10,000 people in Lushwiven town under Zhou Yuan who was control. But the important town of Longton, as the most important town on Beiwu Island, has more than 4,000 first-level warriors among the tens of thousands of residents. As for the warrior apprentices, there are 7 or 8 out of 10 of them. At the same time, warriors are divided into male warriors and female warriors. Women's warrior qualifications are mostly worse than men's warrior qualifications. Therefore, among the more than 4,000 first-level warriors, there are only 500 or 600 female warriors. Chen Ronghui did not choose these 500 to 600 first-level female warriors, and directly assigned them all to Zhang Zi's command. Plan to try to get Zhang Zi to form a Black Silk Army. He divided the remaining male warriors into more than a dozen teams. A team of several hundred people were handed over to the management of the dozen second-level cultivators left behind by Long Fi Hung. As for the remaining people in Longton Town, he singled out all those who had warlock qualifications but had not yet awakened. While doing this, although Chen Ronghuo has been busy, he has not forgotten to practice. After reaching the 3rd level, his soul power was further enhanced, he was able to use multiple distractions, and became more fluent and natural. He had gained a lot of power of faith in the important towns of Xinwu and Dark Horse before. With these powers of faith, coupled with his previous accumulation, as long as he refined them all, he would definitely be able to push his cultivation to the mid-level 3rd level. However, after Chen Ronghuo's cultivation reached the 3rd level, although he was able to operate the Dark Star meditation technique and refine the power of faith faster, his cultivation speed was not as fast as before. Because he must transform the power of faith into more pure soul power. This is also the reason why the higher the cultivation level, the more difficult it is to advance one step further. According to Chen Ronghuo's estimation, even if he continued to refine the power of faith day and night, it would still take him a month or 2 to achieve a breakthrough. Of course, this is also related to the fact that the power of faith he obtained is not pure enough. If he could obtain extremely pure power of faith, he might be able to break through to the mid-level 3rd level in a few days. Thinking about this, Chen Ronghuo looked forward to bringing tens of thousands of residents from the important town of Longtan to Lushwiven town. Then, with Lushwiven town as the core, we can create a large island of our own. Time passed, and by the time all the residents of the important town of Longtan had passed by Chen Ronghuo, it was already dark. During this period, Chen Ronghuo was surprised to find that although many alien monsters had fallen from the Black Demon Stargate before, none of those monsters had come to cause trouble in the important town of Longtan. He didn't know what was going on. The era of Longfi Hung is over. From today on, I am your lord. After everyone was selected, Chen Ronghuo stood up from his seat and flew to a height of more than 10 meters. Yang Sheng said, I promise to keep you safe, and I promise to lead you out of this change in the world, so that you can live a better life than before. But I don't like people who get something for nothing. All the people under my command are rewarded for their merits and punished for their faults. In addition, I also know that some of you, even if Longfi Hung abandons you, still want to wait for him to come back. For this group of people, I can give you 2 days to think carefully. But after 2 days, if you are still stubborn, call. As he spoke, he shook his robe, and a dozen huge black and red skulls flew out of his body. As it beat, it exuded waves of frightening chill. Tens of thousands of townspeople in the important town of Longtan looked at Chen Ronghuo from a distance and at the black and red skulls around Chen Ronghuo, with awe in their hearts. Of course at this time, Chen Ronghuo suddenly put away the skull and said with a slight smile, I believe that after 2 days, you will know who I am, and you should forget about Longfi Hung. After finishing his sentence, he pondered for a moment, then scanned the warriors in the field and said, in addition, tonight, I will find a way to find out the changes around the important town of Longtan. Then starting from tomorrow, more than a dozen teams of warriors will participate in clearing the island of monsters. At that time, for those who perform well, I will reward each person with an experience crystal, or other treasures that can quickly increase their cultivation. As for what experience crystals are, you can go to the Golden Temple to ask, or you can spend your own money to buy experience crystals. High-level cultivators cannot massacre low-level monsters. In this way, the role of low-level cultivators is reflected. He wanted to open up a passage to the direction of Lushwiven town and open up roads to the villages attached to the important town of Longtan, so he had to use the warriors in front of him. Immediately, he explained again and let the crowd disperse. The crowd was just dispersing, but they couldn't help but murmured in low voices. Experience crystal, I have been to the mutated Golden Temple before. That thing is worth 100 new copper coins. Converted to the previous copper coins, it is 10,000. You said that our new lord will really reward us with this thing. I think you should think about how to save your life first. Go out and hunt monsters. I think if half of us can survive in the end, it would be good. I'm still thinking about the reward, haha. It shouldn't be so. I have heard about our new lord before. It is said that he treats the people like a son. When he was in Greenwater Bay Town, no one in Greenwater Bay Town worshipped him. Greenwater Bay Town is his biological son, but we are not. What are you talking about? Suddenly, Dynasty, one of the dozen or so second-level cultivators left in Longtan City, walked to his team, glanced at it, and said coldly, how is our new lord? Seeing to be honest, we will find out in a few days. And now that the Dragon Lord is gone, we can only have a chance to survive here under the protection of this new lord. So don't make things difficult for yourself, just say useless things. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Dynasty is an old man in the important town of Longtan. He is mature and prudent and is very respected by the people in the important town of Longtan. It's just that he is now 150 years old, and he is still only a second-level early-stage cultivator. With his age and cultivation level, let alone breaking through to the third level, he might straighten up and burp at some point. It was precisely because of this that he was abandoned by Long Fi Hung. From a distance, Chen Ronghuo glanced at Dynasty and nodded slightly. He knew that the most talented person he had accepted in the important town of Longtan this time was probably from this dynasty. Dynasty. Age, 150, half a month of remaining life. Warrior cultivation level, early stage of second level. Martial arts qualification, 5. The soul of the divine Bao, unawakened. Special talent, late to achieve great things. Note 1, the dynasty was born with wisdom and knew the way of cultivation, but because of his special talent, he was the last to mature after 150 years of cultivation. Most of the refined spiritual energy of heaven and earth poured into the divine power hidden in his body. In the soul of the Bao. Note 2, the soul of the divine Bao of the dynasty will awaken in half a month. When his life is approaching after awakening, he will gain super powerful archery talent, and his cultivation will skyrocket to the late third level in an instant. At the same time, he can 3 months later, it reached the third level peak. Note 3, you may try to integrate the chi and blood attributes into his body to awaken the soul of the divine Bao in his body in advance. Obviously, after just 15 days, the dynasty will be able to break through to the third level when its lifespan is approaching, gain a lifespan of up to 300 years, and soar to the sky from then on. Thinking of this, Chen Ronghuo couldn't help but lament his good luck. He wondered how he could find a suitable opportunity to help the dynasty awaken the soul of the divine Bao in advance, so as to gain the dynasty's greatest gratitude. At the same time, he still had one thing to do before that. Night comes. In a family on the edge of Longtan town, 7 or 8 people were gathering together. The leader, holding an iron box in his hand, said. Lord Dragon said before he left that the incense stick in our hands is extremely tempting to the third level peak black ice toad that lives in the Black Dragon Cold Pond at the foot of Black Dragon Mountain. Previously, our territory was shrouded in the Lord's light from the Dragon Lord's Lord statue, and the black ice toad did not dare to invade. Now that the Dragon Lord's Lord statue has been broken by Chen Ronghuo, do you think we should light this incense stick? Of course it has to be ignited. The Dragon Lord has been very kind to us, not to mention that there are people in our family who left with the Dragon Lord. And I think that as long as we light this incense stick and attract the black ice toad to kill Chen Ronghuo, the Dragon Lord will definitely come back and take charge of the important town of Longtan again. That's true, but we can't light this incense in the town. If we light this incense here, I'm afraid that the black ice toad will destroy the entire town, so we have to consider this matter in the long run. How to plan for the long term? Suddenly, someone asked. I think. The speaker turned his head. I think, you. The incense that can lure that black ice toad out. Chen Ronghuo pushed open the door and walked out. With a stretch of his hand, he grabbed the iron box in the hand of the leader of the group and grabbed it from the air. Lord, before we. The whole room of people all stood up at this moment. I'll just pretend that what happened before didn't happen. Chen Ronghuo spoke calmly. After everyone heard this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. They felt that Chen Ronghuo had a really good personality. Because you are already dead in my eyes. Call. After finishing his sentence, Chen Ronghuo waved his hand, and black-red flames suddenly erupted, engulfing all the people in the room. And after a moment, he turned them all into black and red skulls and took them into his body. These people are all family members of those who were taken away by Long Fi Hung. Nothing can harm the family. But if your family members cause trouble themselves, there is nothing you can do about it. Chen Ronghuo shook his head and walked out slowly. He found that he had become more and more cautious since he obtained the ancient book. When he has nothing to do, he likes to figure out who is secretly scolding him and trying to harm him. He will kill anyone who dares to scold him or who wants to harm him. Thanks to Starry Night Insects for 600 coins, Nono is a good person for 500 coins, one code as a relative for 500 coins, and the burning of the sense of the times for 100 coins landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Peng. Chapter 236. Roar. There are huge roars of demons everywhere in the mountains and forests. However, all the roars were silenced after being transmitted several thousand meters away. After Chen Ronghuo turned a group of clowns who secretly wanted to harm him into black and red skulls, he left the important town of Longtan and came outside alone. The moon shadow is dim. Looking into the distance, the shadows of the mountains are hazy, like giant beasts roosting at night. Coupled with the roars and the dancing shadows of the trees in the forest, it gives people a sense of terror. Those who are timid may run away in panic as soon as they enter the mountain, even if they are frightened to the point of peeing. Impossible. But Chen Ronghuo was fearless. When walking, take a leisurely stroll. Before he came out, he had already calculated it using ancient books. He knew that there was nothing that could threaten him on the route he was taking. Therefore, when occasionally there were gray monkeys moving quickly from the big trees, he would watch them with interest. Roar. A lone wolf with green eyes and a tail that formed a cold, sharp hook walked out of the forest and met Chen Ronghuo head-on. After the giant wolf glanced at Chen Ronghuo ferociously, he suddenly tucked his tail into his crotch, avoided Chen Ronghuo, and quickly ran into the darkness. Scorpion Tail Ice Wolf, early stage of the second level. The demon from the Black Demon Star. A wandering wolf with no fixed territory. Note 1, the monsters coming from the Black Demon Star can roughly sense the strength of the enemy. Low-level monsters never provoke enemies stronger than themselves. Of course, if you are seriously injured, it's a different story. Note 2, if there is a low-level demon that takes the initiative to attack you, you will kill it and you will not be hated by the powerful beings of the Black Demon Star. Are you so bully and afraid of the strong? After seeing the description of the scorpion-tailed ice wolf in the ancient book, Chen Ronghuo suddenly felt speechless. And the note at the end also makes me think. Relatively speaking, this is fair. He was still thinking before that he could not easily kill those low-level demons coming from the Black Demon Star. What would he do if those low-level demons took the initiative to attack him? It should be right in front. Thinking about it, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed and he accelerated forward. One of his purposes for going out alone this time was to experiment with hunting down the demons of the Black Demon Star. Through the experience crystal, he could transform how much of the original demon energy of the Black Demon Star into his own cultivation. As for the demons he hunts on the Black Demon Star, he can naturally only hunt demons whose cultivation is at the same level as himself, or even higher than himself. Of course, he also wanted to see if he could get some treasures out of them after killing those monsters. Bang! Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo raised his foot, and when he was about to step on it, the ground suddenly broke open, and a voluptuous red and purple piranha the size of a wash basin emerged from it, opened its big mouth full of sharp teeth, and fiercely biting towards his foot. This piranha flower is extremely weird. Faintly, from the depths of its open mouth, you can see something that looks like a human face, but more like a ghost face. What? Chen Ronghuo felt the movement beneath him. Because he had already calculated it through ancient books before, and in his feeling, the aura fluctuation under his body was not strong, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. He just used a little strength when he stepped on it. Puff! The kick landed right in the heart of the flower. The big mouth of the piranha was crushed to pieces by Chen Ronghuo, and countless sharp teeth fell out. In its big mouth, there was a terrifying grimace, extremely twisted, showing a look of severe pain. However, this severe pain only lasted for a moment, and disappeared after Chen Ronghuo crushed it with his feet a few times. At the same time, a large amount of red-purple juice flowed out of its body. Chen Ronghuo felt a little sticky under his feet. He took 2 steps forward and came to a dry open space. He rubbed his feet on it twice before turning back and taking a look at the motionless and charming piranha. Grimacious Piranha, early stage of first level. Black Demon Star species. The Yin Soul and Earth elements hide underground all year round. Any enemy that walks over its body will be attacked by it. The souls of the enemies swallowed by it will suffer endless torture. Status, dead. Cause of death, you stepped on it. Am I already so powerful? Chen Ronghuo touched his chin and felt a little swollen. At the same time, after he killed the ghost-faced piranha, he immediately felt a strange power pouring into his body, and then transformed into a ray of original power under the transformation of the experience crystal in his body, transformed into his cultivation. Of course, this level of cultivation can only be said to be dispensable to him. First level demons will have little effect on me unless they are massacred. Shaking his head, Chen Ronghuo reached out and grabbed a dozen copper coins hidden under the body of the coquettish piranha. I don't know how strong I am now. Then he murmured to himself and quickly rushed towards his destination. He couldn't wait to run towards the demon he had chosen, a demon that had just broken through to the early stage of the third level not long ago. This time, he didn't bring anyone with him. In addition to experimenting with the ability of experience crystals, he also had another purpose, which was to practice courage. Of course it's also practice. He has been in this world for such a long time, and he always brings his men with him in almost every battle. Even if he doesn't have his men with him, he will bring Fat Cat with him. Chen Ronghuo felt that he would definitely not be able to continue like this, so he took advantage of this change in the world and brought a large number of demons from the Black Demon Star, ready to find a stronger demon to practice with. Suddenly, after running for a while, Chen Ronghuo stopped and looked at a small hill in front of him. Through the deduction of the ancient book, he knew that the demon he had chosen was behind the small hill. However, because there was no specific calculation, he didn't know what kind of demon was behind the small hill. Then the next moment, his figure flashed and he was on the small hill. A grayish-white. The back of this small hill, no one knew what kind of change had occurred in the previous great change in the world of the gods, and it was grayish-white everywhere. When he stepped on it, the stone under his feet gave him an unusually hard feeling. Chen Ronghuo looked around, and after a moment, his pupils shrank. He saw a humanoid monster about the size of a 7 or 8-year-old child, grabbing a 7 or 8-meter-long elephant and biting it wildly a few dozen meters away. The childlike monster was all black, as if it had walked out of a coal mine, and it exuded a cold breath. What kind of monster is this? Chen Ronghuo's heart moved, and he used the ancient book's identification ability on it. Although he knew that he wanted to experience it, it would be better not to use the ancient book, but this time was his first time after all, so he should be cautious. Mutated Little Man Demon, Early Stage 3. Talent Potential, 4. Talent 1, Evolutionary Stomach, can quickly improve cultivation and recover physical injuries by devouring a large number of lives. Talent 2, Giant Troll Body, can enlarge the whole body or parts of the body in battle. Note 1, when the mutant little demon devours too many different kinds of life, a large amount of alien energy may conflict in the body, causing collapse and death. Only a very small number of mutant little demons can reach the 4th level. Enlarge the body, quickly recover from physical injuries. Chen Ronghuo stared at the mutant little demon in the distance. After identifying its attributes, he stepped on the ground and rushed straight to it. He did not use the natural disaster magic flame. If he used the natural disaster magic flame, it would not be a practice of actual combat. Boom! The terrifying power contained in the body burst out crazily, and the body raised a strong wind, bringing up the white sand on the ground. Like a wind tornado, it opened up a straight passage. After that, Chen Ronghuo punched out after approaching the mutant little demon, and everything around him was separated from him. Mixed in the bursting blood and energy, it turned into a huge fist and violently arrived in front of the mutant little demon. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Depeng. Chapter 237. Chapter 236 The Attributes of the Mutated Villain Add 1, Third Update. Phew. When the mutated villain saw Chen Ronghuo, who suddenly wanted to rush towards him, he opened his mouth suddenly, and his mouth became 5 or 6 meters wide, like a terrifying black hole. In one mouthful, he swallowed the giant elephant he was holding in his hand. Got in. After swallowing the giant elephant, its mouth became smaller. But its belly suddenly stood up and suddenly became 7 or 8 meters tall. It was as if a 7 or 8-year-old child was pregnant with a giant elephant. Boom! Chen Ronghuo punched the mutated villain in the stomach from the air, making a loud bang. Following this, the mutated villain was sent flying more than 100 meters away by the huge force brought by Chen Ronghuo's punch. It fell far to the ground. Roar! But the mutant villain acted as if nothing had happened. He rubbed his belly and got up from the ground. Then he let out a fierce roar towards Chen Ronghuo. After Chen Ronghuo punched its belly squirmed rapidly and shrunk by 1/3. It was like Chen Ronghuo's punch just now did not hurt it, but helped it quickly digest the elephant in its belly. After roaring, it turned into a black stream of light. Like lightning, he rushed up from the bottom of the hillside and rushed towards Chen Ronghuo. At the same time, at a furious speed, its body grew 7 or 8 times in a short period of time. It turned into a dark giant more than 3 meters tall. Boom! The rolling white gravel on the hillside was carried up by the huge transformed body of the mutated villain, shaped like a white sandstorm, and rushed towards Chen Ronghuo crazily. Chen Ronghuo had seen Han Bai of Angsha town, a late second-level cultivator, take action before, and he was quite shocked at that time. But the dust roll created by Han Bai that day was like playing house in front of the mutated villain. However, compared with that day, they are no longer the same. Facing the oncoming mutated villain, Chen Ronghuo did not dodge, but poured the power of energy and blood from his dantian into his feet. He also rushed out with a roar and killed the mutated villain. As for the white sandstorm rolling towards him, it had no effect on him. In a flash of lightning, the two collided violently. Boom boom boom. In a short period of time, Chen Ronghuo had fist fights with the mutated villain countless times. His height is not as high as that of the mutated villain after his transformation. But his power is no less than that of the mutated villain. The reaction speed is even faster than that of the mutant villain. In the collisions again and again, Chen Ronghuo felt the madness and ferocity of the mutant villain, but he became more and more satisfied with his own strength. Not to mention the natural disaster demon flames, so far, he has not even used the secret technique of disintegrating the demon. He only relied on the power of the undead demon body, as well as reaching the third level of cultivation and the super reaction speed brought by practicing the Immortal Demon Sutra, to fight fiercely with the mutated villain. The Immortal Demon Sutra comes with two major secret techniques, one is the Immortal Demon Body, and the other is the technique of disintegrating the demon. But in addition, after practicing the Immortal Demon Sutra, Chen Ronghuo also found that his abilities had been enhanced in almost all aspects. Moreover, the combination of the Immortal Demonic Sutra and the Immortal Demonic Blood in his body has an even more powerful characteristic. This characteristic is that his strength will not be weakened due to injury. On the contrary, the more serious his injuries, the stronger he becomes. It's not that the attack power is strong, but that it's strong in all directions. What a good target! In order to better practice his combat experience, Chen Ronghuo was not in a hurry to kill the mutated villain. Due to its special talent and the fact that it ate a whole giant elephant just before the battle, the mutated villain was able to recover quickly from the injuries it sustained under Chen Ronghuo's attack. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 10 minutes. As time went by, the mutant villain digested all the giant elephants he had eaten before and converted them into special healing energy. and after it repeatedly treated the injuries it sustained in the battle with Chen Ronghuo, it finally began to be unable to hold on. Unlike Chen Ronghuo, the energy it needs to heal its own body comes from external forces. After Chen Ronghuo refined the immortal demon blood, the blood in his body seemed to have turned into a perpetual motion machine. The blood he had consumed could be quickly restored. Even under the nourishment of the immortal demon's blood, the soul power he consumed and the recovery speed were much faster than before. The mutant villain's demonic energy add 1. The mutant villain's troll combat body add 1. The mutated villain's stomach property add 1. At the same time, during the fierce battle, his left hand hit the mutated villain from time to time, causing him to take out many attributes from the mutant villain in each battle. Just to prevent such a good target from falling down too quickly, as soon as he took out these attributes, he would definitely give them back with the next punch. Of course, in order to become more familiar with the ability of his left hand, use it in combat. During the fierce battle with the mutated villain, Chen Ronghuo also experimented with some attributes such as the heavy attributes of mountains, the pain attribute of rabbits, the bleeding attributes of wounds, etc., on the mutated villain. Roar! Chen Ronghuo yelled. The pleasure of punching each other makes him stronger and more vigorous. He wishes he could fight until tomorrow morning. Roar, roar, roar. Roar, roar, roar. But as the battle progressed, the roar of the extremely ferocious mutant demon became weaker and weaker. It was like a tiger turned into a little sheep. A little sheep abused by Chen Ronghuo in every way. West of Longtan Town. Under a small abrupt mountain. Tong Kun has been suppressed by the mountain on his body from day to night. After so much time, he has tried countless ways, and his 2 apprentices have also helped, but they just can't move the mountain. This mountain is very strange. I don't know what treasure it is made of. It's like there is a repressive force that suppresses him underneath. But when it is suppressed, it doesn't cause any harm to him. If I wasn't seriously injured. Tong Kun gritted his teeth. However, he knew that even if he was not seriously injured, he would not be able to escape if he was pressed under the mountain. This hill was so strange. Master, this mountain really cannot be moved. The short and fat Xie Dongjun said with sweat all over his head. Ma Zixuan, who was pale, remained silent. Tong Kun had abandoned the 2 of them before, which actually made them hate him very much. It was just that Tong Kun had something they coveted. In addition, although they were Tong Kun's apprentices, Tong Kun was insidious and cautious. When he first accepted them as apprentices, he left a backup plan on them. This forced them to find a way to rescue Tong Kun. At the same time, although Tong Kun was seriously injured and suppressed under this mountain, it did not mean that he had no strength at all. This was also the reason why the 2 did not dare to act rashly against Tong Kun. If we can't move it, then use ghosts to move it. Suddenly, Tong Kun said with a gloomy face, I know that you have always wanted me to teach you the follow-up skills of the 5 ghosts meditation technique. So, later on, you 2 will look for villages and towns with weak strength on this island. Attack them, and then collect souls to help me refine the 10,000 ghosts banner. As long as the 10,000 ghosts banner is refined, I don't believe that I can't move this strange mountain with the 10,000 ghosts moving mountain technique. Continue to type, I should be able to type 1 more chapter before 12 o'clock. Thanks to Fengzhu Zhishang for the 100 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Dupang. Chapter 238. The short and fat Xie Dongjun and Ma Zixuan's eyes lit up when they heard this. They are all peak level 3 practitioners, but they are controlled by Tong Kun. Without the follow-up skills of the 5 ghosts meditation technique, they will never be able to practice to the 4th level in their lifetime. Although they may still be controlled by Tongkan after practicing to the 4th level, they will be one step closer to strength, which is better than now. Xiedongjun immediately said, Master, don't worry, my junior brother and I will go and come back quickly, and try to help you collect enough souls as soon as possible. Forget it. But suddenly, Tongkan shook his head and said, this time, let your junior brother go by himself, you help me guard here. In case there are blind demons who come to trouble me. Although I can take action now, the most urgent task is to heal my injuries first. This. Xiedongjun was stunned. Don't worry. Tongkan glanced at Xiedongjun and said, as long as your junior brother can complete the task, I will also give you the follow-up exercises of the 5 ghosts meditation technique. Xiedongjun was relieved. But he didn't see that Ma Zixuan, who was standing beside him, looked at him with an unfriendly look. Bang! On the hill covered with white gravel, Chen Ronghuo punched the body of the mutant little demon, and shook his head after knocking it back. You can't do this. He stepped on the ground, shaking up a large piece of white gravel, and quickly appeared in front of the mutant little demon, stepping on its chest. Bang! The next moment, all his strength burst out, all running to his feet, and with a bang, he killed the mutant little demon who had reached the 3rd level on the spot. Before coming here, Chen Ronghuo had used ancient books to deduce. Knowing that within a few thousand meters nearby, there were no other powerful monsters except this mutant little demon. In this case, he didn't have to worry about the sound of the battle spreading out and attracting the attention of more powerful demons. After all, in the current world of gods, the sound can only be transmitted a few thousand meters away at most. As for those low-level demons, it was good enough that they didn't run away when they heard the sound of his battle with the mutant little demon. At this time, the mutant little demon died, and immediately a force was transmitted into Chen Ronghuo's body. Then in a blink of an eye, this force was transformed into the purest source power by the experience crystal and transformed into his cultivation. This transformation of cultivation not only enhanced Chen Ronghuo's soul power, but also enhanced his blood power. About 5 days. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo's eyes lit up slightly after carefully sensing it. Through sensing, he knew that this mutant little demon in the early stage of the 3rd level could save him 5 days of cultivation time. This 5 days does not refer to the usual 5 days of cultivation time. Rather, it refers to the 5 days when he fully refines the power of faith. It would take him more than 2 months to refine the power of faith and cultivate to the middle stage of the 3rd stage. That is to say, as long as he kills more than a dozen mutant demons of this level, he can directly reach the middle stage of the 3rd stage. However, it is not an easy task to find a lone demon without other powerful demons around. We have to think about this matter in the long run. Chen Ronghuo took a deep breath and decided to wait until he drew a map of the area near Longtan Town through the ancient book. Thinking of this, he lowered his head and flipped under the mutant demon, and immediately saw a pile of 3 gold coins, dozens of silver coins, and a pile of copper coins. 3 gold coins are equivalent to 30,000 new copper coins, which is already a considerable harvest. At the same time, there is a black pocket above the pile of copper coins. Stomach of the mutant demon, special treasure. It has a huge space inside. After refining, it can be used as a storage space, or it can be driven by blood or soul power to swallow the enemy. Enemies swallowed into the stomach of the mutant little demon will be corroded by strong acid. The stomach of the mutant little demon can evolve and mutate through the enemies it swallows, gaining stronger abilities. This. When Chen Ronghuo identified the properties of this black bag through the ancient book, he suddenly showed a little surprise on his face. He didn't know how good this treasure was at swallowing enemies, but judging from the description in the ancient book, the potential of this thing seemed to be very good. However, it is also a big enemy swallower. Just thinking about it, Chen Ronghuo shook his head. his left-hand ability can destroy the enemy. His natural disaster magic flame can turn the enemy into a black and red skull. Now he actually got such a bag again. In this way, how should he distribute the enemies he kills in the future? Thinking of this, he waved his hand and collected the stomach of the mutant little demon, along with a pile of gold, silver, and copper coins. Of course, in the process, he did not forget to collect the attributes of the dead mutant demon. This was relatively easy for him, because in the previous battle, he had actually figured out most of the attributes of the mutant demon. So what he needed to do now was just to collect them. It's time to go back. When everything was done, Chen Ronghuo looked up at the dim moon in the distance. Finding that it was already after 10 o'clock in the evening, he didn't care about the clothes and messy hair that had just been damaged in the battle. He flashed and quickly returned to Longton Town along the way he came. Whoosh! Suddenly, when Chen Ronghuo returned to the corpse of the ghost-faced man-eating plant that he had stepped on to death before, he glanced and saw that the corpse of the ghost-faced man-eating plant had disappeared. And he carefully looked around, but found no trace. It was as if the corpse of the ghost-faced man-eating plant disappeared out of thin air, rather than being eaten by something. The last time the ancient book said that after the demons of the Black Magic Star were killed by people with experience crystals, a part of the Black Magic Star's original power would be intercepted. Most of the remaining Black Magic Star's original power would return to the Black Magic Star. It seems that this process of returning to the Black Magic Star should refer to refreshing. Chen Ronghuo touched his chin and muttered to himself. He had not touched the attributes of the ghost-faced piranha before, firstly because the level of this piranha was too low and its attributes were average. Second, he wanted to see if this thing would behave as he had calculated after a period of death. Now it seems to be true. Game, this is really going to be a game. Chen Ronghuo shook his head again, not knowing what the purpose of the gods was. What is this brother talking about? Game, what game? At this moment, a pale young man suddenly walked out of the dense forest behind Chen Ronghuo. This young man was Ma Zixuan, Tong Kun's disciple. When Ma Zixuan saw Chen Ronghuo, a smile immediately appeared on his face. He finally saw a living person on this island. And it was an ordinary living person. At this time, Chen Ronghuo, because of the battle with the mutant little demon, his clothes were torn and his hair was messy, like a refugee fleeing. In addition, the ability Chen Ronghuo obtained from Fat Cat was ordinary, so Ma Zixuan, who walked all the way here from the west of the important town of Longton, did not find Chen Ronghuo special and just regarded him as an ordinary person. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depang. Chapter 239. Is there anyone else here? Chen Ronghuo raised his heart, turned his head, and laid his eyes on Ma Zixuan, whose face was as pale as a ghost. Although he didn't let down his guard just now, he really didn't notice Ma Zixuan's approach. After seeing Ma Zixuan, Chen Ronghuo immediately used the ancient book identification technique on him. Ma Zixuan, Level 3 Peak Ghost Control Warlock. Qualifications: 4, Natural 3, Acquired Add 1. Skill: 5 Ghost Meditation Technique. Secret Techniques: 5 Ghosts Capturing Technique, 5 Ghosts Moving Technique, 5 Ghosts Moving Technique, 5 Ghosts Soul Capturing Technique. Origin: the indigenous cultivators of the demon-sealed land came to the continent of the gods through the space cracks formed by the changes in the world. A third-level peak ghost-bending warlock. The place where demons are sealed? Chen Ronghuo identified Ma Zixuan's information, and his pupils suddenly shrank slightly. He didn't know what the demon-sealed land was. But the words third-level peak ghost control warlock made him feel awe-inspiring. As soon as the idea came to mind, Chen Ronghuo used ancient books to make some calculations. Fierce. Bad luck. A few words, plus 2 exclamation points, emerged from the ancient book. The handwriting on ancient books has always been in the form of Chinese characters. This is a bad sign. Chen Ronghuo shook his head secretly. But on the surface, after seeing Mazixuan, he showed a bitter look on his face and said, "Game? I mean, I don't know which god caused this change in the world." After finishing his sentence, he suddenly looked at Mazixuan doubtfully and said, "By the way, I wonder who this friend is." "My name is Mazixuan, and I just came to this island." Mazixuan introduced himself with a smile, and followed the words, "My friend, I don't know where you are from, but there are villages and towns nearby. I want a drink of water." "Begging for water? Isn't this my excuse when I came to Beiwu Island?" Chen Ronghuo was speechless. Immediately, with a thought in his mind, he stretched his palm forward, and suddenly a ray of watery light appeared from his hand and turned into a water ball. "What a coincidence, I happen to have some abilities. Since Brother Ma, you are thirsty, let me help you." As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the water polo in his hand flew towards Mazixuan. After Chen Ronghuo conquered the red carp last time, he gained the power of water. It's just that this ability is really useless. This is the first time he has used this ability in such a long time. Mazixuan was stunned. With a circle of his hand, black light flashed, sending Chen Ronghuo to the water polo in front of him and catching it. Then he looked at Chen Ronghuo in disbelief and said, "Are you also a cultivator?" "Yes." Chen Ronghuo nodded innocently, "I am not only a cultivator, but also a third-level cultivator like you, Brother Ma. It's just that my abilities are somewhat special. Most people can't detect my cultivation unless I use my hands. Of course, although I am a third-level cultivator, I am only at the beginning of the third level and cannot compare to Brother Ma. I guess Brother Ma, your cultivation level should be at least mid-level 3, right? By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet, my name is Dynasty." Hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, Mazixuan immediately opened his mouth. Somewhat incredible. Are all the people in the God's continent so innocent? At this moment, he even couldn't bear to deceive Chen Ronghuo. "Well, yes, but I'm only in the middle of the third level," Mazixuan replied casually, and followed his words, "Brother Wang, to tell you the truth, I came from a far-away place and was a little tired. I want to find a place to rest for a while. I wonder if you know where there are villages or towns." "That's it, then you come with me," Chen Ronghuo said without hesitation. "I am the lord of the important town of Longtan. Brother Ma is a guest from afar. I will take you to our town right now." Thank you so much, Brother Long." Mazixuan felt a little dizzy. Originally, when he met Chen Ronghuo, he was still thinking about how he could coerce and induce him if Chen Ronghuo didn't cooperate. But I didn't expect that everything would go so smoothly. Of course, deep down in his heart, he still maintained a trace of vigilance. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then Chen Ronghuo said a few words to Mazixuan, then turned into a stream of light with him, and left the dense forest. "Brother Wang, I wonder how many strong men there are in your important town of Longtan." On the way, Mazixuan asked tentatively. "Strong?" Upon hearing Mazixuan's question, Chen Ronghuo shook his head and made up nonsense. "To be honest with Brother Ma, I am actually the new lord of Longtan town. The original lord of Longtan town was called Longfi Hung. Longfi Hung was a third-level peak cultivator with great strength. But not long ago, he was scared and ran away by Chen Ronghuo, the lord of Green Water Bay Town. You may not know Chen Ronghuo. Let me tell you, that Chen Ronghuo is really very strong. Not only is he strong, but his subordinates are also extremely strong, especially his cat. Balabalabala. In short, anyway, it is precisely because of Chen Ronghuo that I can become the new lord of Longtan town. Before Longfi Hung escaped, he took away almost all the strong men in the town. So now I am the only third-level cultivator in the entire Longtan town. In fact, I haven't even erected the statue of the Lord yet. Having said this, Chen Ronghuo shook his head again and said, there are 40,000 to 50,000 people in our town. Nowadays, the world is changing. There are so many people, but I am the only third-level cultivator. It is really difficult. That is why I, as the lord of a town, will go out alone. I want to check the surrounding environment so that I can have a clear idea. By the way. Suddenly, after a pause, Chen Ronghuo looked at Ma Zixuan and said, I wonder what you think of me, Brother Ma. Brother Wang, you are a good person. Ma Zixuan said without hesitation. That's it. Chen Ronghuo clapped his hands and said, I wonder if Brother Ma has any urgent matters. If not, I, a good person, sincerely invite you, Brother Ma, to stay in our town for a while. Or it would be even better if you can join our Longton town. Even, I can take out the power of faith I get and share it with you in half. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, Ma Zixuan finally understood why Chen Ronghuo was so honest with him. Want to invite me to share the town with you? A slight smile appeared on his face. I just came to this island and I have nowhere to go. Since you, Brother Wang, have invited me sincerely, I will wait until I arrive at your Longton town to see the situation first. If it is suitable, I will join Longton town. After saying this, Ma Zixuan asked Chen Ronghuo about Longton town, Beiwu Island, and the situation of this world change. In contrast, Chen Ronghuo told most of them truthfully. By the way, Brother Ma, I don't know if you have discovered that after the world change, these monsters on the island can explode gold, silver, copper coins, and various treasures after being killed. So, the two of them rushed to the foot of Black Dragon Mountain and came to a place where the air was a little cold for some reason. Chen Ronghuo suddenly stopped and asked Ma Zixuan. Oh, Brother Wang, did you find it too? Hearing Chen Ronghuo's question, Ma Zixuan immediately showed an interested look. His master Tong Kun killed the stone ball monster and exploded a bunch of treasures. He walked all the way from the west of Longton town to here, and inevitably killed some monsters during the period, and also got a treasure. Yes. Chen Ronghuo pointed to his torn clothes and messy hair and said, Brother Ma, you can tell by looking at my appearance. Not long ago, I just desperately killed a third-level monster. Killed a third-level monster? Ma Zixuan's eyes lit up slightly. He had killed many low-level monsters along the way. But after killing the low-level monsters, he only got a few copper coins. He didn't get any gold or silver coins. As for the treasure, he only got one, and it was a very low-level treasure. Although he encountered a third-level monster, he didn't dare to do it in case of accidents. Thinking of this, he couldn't help asking, Brother Chen, did you get any treasure when you killed that third-level monster? Hearing Ma Zixuan's question, Chen Ronghuo immediately said, I did get a treasure, but I don't know what it is. As he spoke, Chen Ronghuo flipped his hand and took out a thumb-sized, crystal-clear, pure white object that exuded a hint of coldness. Mysterious ice-toad incense, can be ignited with blood and soul power. After ignition, no fire is generated, but it can emit a colorless and odorless breath that can only be sensed by toads with extreme ice attributes. This thing was what he got from the 7 or 8 clowns who wanted to harm him in the important town of Longton. The place he brought Ma Zixuan to was not the important town of Longton. It was next to the Black Dragon Cold Pond where the mysterious ice toad lived. Thanks to Starry Night Insects for the 500 coin reward at landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Dupang. Chapter 240. After Chen Ronghuo took out the Xianbing toad incense, he immediately used his soul power to ignite it. Then he handed it to Ma Zixuan. As for some of the auras that lingered on him from the Xianbing toad incense, he used the sealing ability of the ancient book to seal them in an instant. At the same time, before handing the Xianbing toad inducing incense to Ma Zixuan, just in case, he used his left hand to find some of the toad-inducing properties from the incense. This thing. Mazixuan took the toad incense from Xianbing and looked suspicious, not recognizing it. Black ice attracts toad incense is a rare thing. Except for people like Chen Ronghuo who have invincible identification skills, I am afraid that even ordinary people who have lived for tens of thousands of years may not necessarily know a few of them. At this time, although Xianbing Yin toad incense was ignited by Chen Ronghuo, there was no change at all on the outside. There was no temperature, and no breath could be seen emanating from it. Even the size seems to have remained unchanged. Brother Ma doesn't know this thing either. Seeing Mazixuan's expression, Chen Ronghuo showed a hint of regret. Black Dragon Cold Pool is located in a canyon at the foot of mutated Black Dragon Mountain. At this time, the two of them were standing in front of this canyon. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's inquiry, Ma Zixuan shook his head, I haven't seen it either. Gua. But before he could finish his words, a huge and thick toad cry suddenly came from the canyon not far away. When the toad screamed, Chen Ronghuo and Ma Zixuan turned around and saw an icy hurricane suddenly rolling up in the canyon beside them. Under the hurricane, trees were broken and uprooted, like a terrifying typhoon raging out. The rocks on both sides of the canyon were also blown away by a layer when the hurricane blew through. The inner layer was covered with a layer of snow-white ice in an instant. Air conditioning has arrived. Gua. Another toad call sounded. The next moment, the head was completely black and had big bumps on it. There are densely packed small bags on top of the big bags. A giant toad that was 7 or 8 meters tall as a small building, rushed out of the canyon carrying an astonishing air of cold death. With one leap, he rushed straight towards Chen Ronghuo and Ma Zixuan. What? Ma Zixuan's hair stood on end. I didn't expect that I would be attacked by a demon here. Brother Ma, run quickly. This thing is too strong. Let's run separately. Life or death depends on who is lucky. Chen Ronghuo greeted him kindly, then turned around and ran away. No, Brother Wang, don't leave. Let's work together to deal with this thing. By the time Ma Zixuan reacted, Chen Ronghuo had already run dozens of meters away. Seeing this, Ma Zixuan shouted loudly in an attempt to stop Chen Ronghuo. You are stupid. I am in the early stage of the 3rd level, and you are only in the middle of the 3rd level. This monster is at least the late 3rd level or even the peak of the 3rd level. How can we two weak chickens deal with it? Chen Ronghuo's men are not here at this time, and he has no baggage. He does not need to maintain the majesty of a lord. He can really run away without any scruples. As soon as he finished speaking, he was already 100 meters away. Hearing this, Ma Zixuan was speechless for a while. Not long ago, Chen Ronghuo asked him if he was a mid-level 3rd level cultivator, and he admitted it voluntarily. At this time, after Chen Ronghuo ran more than 100 meters away, he seemed to have thought of something again. He suddenly turned around, flicked his foot on the ground, and picked up a stone, like a shooting star, in the blink of an eye. On the body of Xianbing toad. Bang! The stone hitting the black ice toad was like hitting ice. After a crisp sound, it was bounced away. Xianbing toad was attacked, his eyes flashed fiercely, and he looked towards Chen Ronghuo. Brother Ma, what are you waiting for if you don't run away? Let me tell you, Brother Wang, I can only help you get here. However, Chen Ronghuo ignored Xianbing toad, shouted to Ma Zixuan again, and quickly disappeared. In the distance, Ma Zixuan was stunned. So kind and righteous. Are all the people in the God's continent so benevolent? Gua. The Xianbing toad shouted, but finally ignored Chen Ronghuo in the distance. His two white ice-like eyes turned and landed on Ma Zixuan, who was still holding the Xianbing toad incense in his hand. Call. The next moment, it opened its mouth and spit out endless black and white mist, covering a large area in front of it in the blink of an eye. Xuanhuan was not prepared for this at all. He was caught off guard and was immediately shrouded in fog. After being shrouded in the mist, Xuanhuan felt a chill in his heart and did not dare to neglect. He hurriedly put away the Xianbing toad incense in his hand and looked solemnly into the depths of the mist. Whoosh! Just seeing him put away the Xianbing toad incense, the Xianbing toad's eyes immediately showed a terrifying murderous look. He opened his mouth and spit out a cold tongue, like an arrow, piercing through the black and white fog, and shot at Xuanhuan in the blink of an eye. Come over. At this time, outside the fog, Chen Ronghuo slowly walked out of the forest. Looking at the area in front of him that was shrouded in two-colored fog, a smile appeared on his face. Then after thinking about it, he jumped up to a big tree and waited quietly on it. 5 ghosts great movement, 5 ghosts great capture, 5 ghosts possession technique. In the black and white mist spitted out by the Xianbing toad, Xuanhuan tried his best to fight with the Xianbing toad. He is extremely powerful, especially since he comes from the demon-sealed land and has several powerful secret treasures in his hands. Unlike here in Beiwu Island, it is located in a remote area, and there are very few people who have powerful secret treasures. So even if the black ice toad has the assistance of the black and white mist evil, he will not fall behind for a while. Time passed. Chen Ronghuo practiced while waiting. After a while, he looked up and saw that it was already 11 o'clock in the evening. He was a little helpless. If he had known that these two guys would fight for so long, he would have returned to Longton Town and called all his men here to surround them. He was alone, calculating 2 third-level peak practitioners, and he was a little scared after all. Boom! Suddenly, at this moment, the black and white mist evil in the distance suddenly exploded, and a powerful and huge wave came from it. Hearing the movement, Chen Ronghuo was startled and jumped down from the tree in a hurry. After landing, he saw that in the exploding black and white mist, Xuanhuan, whose face was even paler, stood in the middle of the field, surrounded by black air, looking extremely majestic. Xuanhuan. Status: seriously injured, poisoned by extreme ice, only 1/10 of his strength remains. So he was just pretending. Chen Ronghuo glanced at Xuanhuan, then turned his head and set his eyes on the black ice toad. At this time, the black ice toad, which was as big as a small building, was lying more than 100 meters away from Xuanhuan, with its chin full of lumps on the ground, sticking out its tongue, panting, like a dog. Black ice toad. Cultivation, peak of the 3rd level. Talent potential, 4. Talent ability 1, black ice control. Talent ability 2, release black and white mist. Ability, extreme ice poison, ice explosion, ice torrent. Status, how many breaths left? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 241. Xuanhuan stood in the middle of the field, looking at the mysterious ice toad a few hundred meters away, releasing a ghostly aura, pretending that I was not seriously injured and that I was still strong, and looked at the behemoth indifferently. The black ice toad was lying on the ground, but it could only breathe out, and it took a long time to breathe in again. It was really stunned. Viewed from a distance, it was covered in a large bag, which had been broken to an unknown extent, and white slurry like ice slag flowed out of it. If it doesn't use secret treasures and the like, Xuanhuan really may not be its opponent. But Xuanhuan's secret treasure was too powerful, especially at the end of the fight. Xuanhuan suddenly used a ghostly hidden thunder, and was caught off guard, covering it with toads and blowing it up to pieces. Xuanhuan looked at the black ice toad warily, and after waiting for a while, he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that it really seemed to have no power to fight back. Brother Ma, are you okay? But just when he was about to take action, a familiar voice suddenly came from a distance. His heart trembled, and he turned around to look, and immediately saw Chen Ronghuo, who quickly ran towards him. "Brother Wang, you didn't leave." Seeing Chen Ronghuo, Mazixuan suddenly became alert. "I left." Chen Ronghuo shook his head, "but I saw you finish here from a distance, so I came back." When Chen Ronghuo was speaking, he had already entered the battlefield where Mazixuan had just fought Xianbing Toad. As Chen Ronghuo approached, Mazixuan suddenly became slightly vigilant. The demon-sealed land is much more chaotic than the God's continent. He had gone through countless intrigues in the demon-sealed land before he could reach where he is today and become a third-level peak cultivator. So although Chen Ronghuo has always behaved innocently, he still hasn't completely let down his guard. When Chen Ronghuo saw Mazixuan's expression, his thoughts changed slightly. After arriving at the battlefield where Mazixuan had just fought the Black Ice Toad, he glanced at the Black Ice Toad lying on the ground in the distance, and suddenly asked, "Brother Ma, it seems that this Black Ice Toad is dying. Do you have what kind of treasure can you put away without killing it?" Storage equipment cannot collect live animals. Chen Ronghuo doesn't want to kill this Black Ice Toad now. Only after the original power of the Black and White Mist Evil is refined can it have the power to protect an island. Once this Black Ice Toad dies, maybe the floating island where the important town of Longtan is located will collapse and disintegrate under the repulsive force between the two islands, the Liangpan Snake Formation and the White Mist Island and Black Mist Island. Become smaller floating islands. This is not in his interest. Moreover, this Black Ice Toad is not the life of the Black Demon Star. Even if he kills it, he will not be able to gain any cultivation, let alone explode any treasures. Facing Chen Ronghuo's inquiry, Mazixuan shook his head. Treasures that can hold living things are much more precious than ordinary space treasures, and only his master has one. No. Chen Ronghuo felt a little regretful. However, he just sighed, and the next moment he flashed in front of the Xianbing Toad, took out an iron rope from the storage ring, and with a flick, tied up the huge Xianbing Toad. During this process, Xianbing Toad did not resist at all. It really has no strength left. After tying up the Xianbing Toad, Chen Ronghuo raised his head, looked at Ma Zixuan and said, "Brother Ma, I know this thing is your prey, but this big guy is quite powerful. It would be a pity to kill him like this. I have a secret technique for subduing monsters. I want to try to subdue this big guy. Is it possible? Of course, I wouldn't take it for nothing. In the next 1 year, the power of faith produced by our important town of Longtan will belong to you, Brother Ma." Chen Ronghuo's words are not too false. Killing the Black Ice Toad would not bring much profit to him. But subjugation is different. A Black Ice Toad at the peak of the 3rd level is still of great use to him at present. Although his demon contract has been exhausted and cannot be used to contract the Black Ice Toad, he still has Wenjing Gluo, a magic pen warlock under him. When Meridian can refine ghost contract talismans, he might try to use the Ghost Pact to control the Black Ice Toad. In fact, Chen Ronghuo had already planned to use the Ghost Contract Talisman to recruit his subordinates. It's just that the Wen Meridian is used to refine the Ghost Contract Talisman, especially the 3rd level Ghost Contract Talisman, which requires the use of 3rd level evil ghosts. 3rd level evil ghosts are hard to find on Beiwu Island. That's why he has never been able to implement this plan. But now, Chen Ronghuo glanced at Mazixuan. This one is truly a ghost-bending warlock. And he is also a 3rd level peak ghost-bending warlock. Who would believe that a ghost-bending warlock has no evil ghosts in his hands? This thing is of no use to me. If you want it, Brother Wang, then it's yours. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's inquiry, Ma Zixuan shook his head. Even if the Xianbing Toad is useful to him, in his current state, he will not compete with Chen Ronghuo. Upon hearing Ma Zixuan's reply, Chen Ronghuo immediately put a smile on his face, pulled up the rope and walked towards Xuan. The other end of the iron rope tied the black ice toad tightly. The Xianbing toad was unable to stand up and could only wipe the floor with its big white belly and move with Chen Ronghuo. The weight of this big guy is estimated to be tens of thousands of pounds. But tens of thousands of pounds is really just like playing to Chen Ronghuo today. Being pulled by Chen Ronghuo, it raised its head and glanced at Chen Ronghuo, then closed its eyes weakly. Chen Ronghuo walked up to Ma Xuan and said, "Brother Ma, this is not a place to stay for a long time, and I think you are seriously injured. In this case, I will take you back to my territory and find you a safe place, a place for you to heal." Ma Xuan took a deep look at Chen Ronghuo, but saw that Chen Ronghuo's expression was calm and he could not tell anything. He took a deep breath, then there is Brother Lao Wang. He really couldn't refuse Chen Ronghuo. At this time, his strength was very low. If he rejected Chen Ronghuo, and if Chen Ronghuo had ill intentions towards him and attacked him directly, he might have no choice but to resort to the method of mutual death. Moreover, he thought that although Chen Ronghuo had escaped alone before, he had reminded him before escaping. Even after the black ice toad came out, Chen Ronghuo kicked a stone to attract the black ice toad's attention. Although Chen Ronghuo did not succeed in doing this, from his point of view, his intention was there. "I hope I didn't see the wrong person," he thought to himself. In the demon-sealed land, he came into contact with many duplicitous people. But among them, no one looked like Chen Ronghuo. Not to mention anything else, if those people encountered this kind of situation, most of them would not be like Chen Ronghuo and talk to him in a pleasant manner. Instead, he attacked him directly. After all, what if he was left with too much time and he recovered a little? Thinking like this, he suddenly summoned a ghost as black as ink and possessed him. After this fierce ghost possessed him, he immediately turned into a demon-like appearance, with black energy rising all over his body, and the ghostly energy became stronger. At the same time, his face, which was already extremely pale, became even paler. Healing wounds with ghosts is his unique method. Haha. After Chen Ronghuo used ancient books to identify Ma Xuan's condition, he laughed and quickly came to Ma Xuan's side. With a big hand, he grabbed Ma Xuan like a chicken. Then he took off into the air and flew back to the important town of Longtan. Of course, he already knew how powerful the blue lightning thunderbird was, so he only dared to fly no more than 10 meters in the air, and absolutely did not dare to fly any higher. But in this way, the Xianbing toad, who was held in his hand with an iron rope, suffered. The snow-white belly rubbed against the ground, leaving icy debris all over the ground. During the flight, Chen Ronghuo had a smile on his face. Holding the toad on the left and holding the ghost on the right, he is considered unique. But when Ma Xuan was held by him like this, he felt a little relieved. His method of healing wounds with ghosts looks extremely weird. Most people would never dare to approach rashly after seeing this scene. But Chen Ronghuo dared to approach without hesitation. There were only 3 possibilities. One is to be extremely confident in yourself. One is to understand the secret technique. There is also a person who really has no intention of murdering him and really wants to win over him. In his opinion, the third possibility is probably greater. Whoosh. While he was thinking this, Chen Ronghuo avoided dangerous places along the way and wandered around in the forest. When he was about to encircle Ma Xuan, he finally saw a town with tall walls in the distance. Once here, Chen Ronghuo suddenly became more unscrupulous. In a few flashes, he took Ma Xuan and Xianbing Toad back to the important town of Longtan. Who? At this moment, a figure suddenly shouted from the city wall. Chen Ronghuo raised his head and saw that the person who shouted loudly was none other than Wang Chaoyang, whose hair was a little white but stood up straight, looking old and strong. There is another chapter around 12 o'clock, please order. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Peng. Chapter 242. It's me. Chen Ronghuo said in a low voice. Immediately, he moved his body and brought Xianbing Toad and Mazixuan to the city wall. This subordinate has met the Lord. Seeing Chen Ronghuo, Cao Cao immediately saluted him without being humble or overbearing. Chen Ronghuo glanced around, then focused on Wang Chao and said, "Mr. Wang, you are still patrolling here." He temporarily arranged the remaining dozen second-level cultivators in Longtan Town to take leadership positions. But at this time, on the large city wall on this side of Longtan City, apart from the first-level guards, there was only a second-level commander from the dynasty. At the same time, Chen Ronghuo discovered through induction that although Wang dynasty was patrolling on the city wall, the energy and blood in his body circulated rapidly when he was walking. He was obviously patrolling and practicing at the same time. Martial arts practice can be divided into static kung fu and dynamic kung fu. Jingong is generally practiced while sitting. The exercises are mostly done by visualizing special artistic conceptions and then punching again and again. Dynasty, however, seems to have combined static and dynamic exercises, truly practicing walking, sitting and lying down. Although Chen Ronghuo is also trying this, he has not yet been able to do it. All he can do is to use the Dark Star meditation technique all the time. But he could only practice the Immortal Demon Sutra through boxing or while sitting quietly. Can't stop. Upon hearing Chen Ronghuo's question, Cao Cao shook his head. Then he glanced at the motionless mountains in the distance, and laughed at himself. Besides, I probably don't have a few more days to live, so I naturally want to take a good look at the world. In the midst of self-mockery, there was sadness in his eyes. Originally, he was also a person with a high heart. However, after 150 years of hard training, his improvement in cultivation was always as slow as a tortoise, which really made his ambition almost exhausted. It was only that kind of persistence that lasted for more than 100 years, that kind of habit that went deep into his bones, that allowed him to remain calm and never forget to practice even when he knew he only had a few days to live. Looking at the deep wrinkles between Wang Chao's eyebrows, Chen Ronghuo showed a hint of admiration in his eyes. If he were a dynasty, he really might not be able to have this perseverance. However, if the dynasty does not have this perseverance, it may not be able to awaken the soul of the divine Bao when the dynasty's lifespan reaches 150 years. Even after awakening, the king's cultivation may not be able to directly reach the late third level. Whether it can even reach the third level is still a matter of debate. And once the dynasty's cultivation level fails to reach the third level by the end of his life, his ending will be obvious. Mr. Wang. Thinking this, Chen Ronghuo suddenly put Mazixuan and Xianbing Toad on the ground. Then he looked at Wang Chao and said, "If I cast a spell to increase your longevity and improve your cultivation, are you willing to be truly loyal to me?" He originally planned to find a suitable opportunity to integrate the energy and blood attributes into Dynasty's body. But now, he decided not to wait any longer. As long as he completely helps the dynasty to awaken and subdue the dynasty, he will be equivalent to having a powerful combat power in the late third level. This is very necessary for the current situation. Moreover, he has now developed some skills in recognizing people. From his point of view, as long as he helps the dynasty awaken the soul of the divine Bao in advance, it should not be difficult to gain his true allegiance, given the dynasty's character. Increase my longevity and improve my cultivation. Wang Chao's body trembled and he looked at Chen Ronghuo in disbelief. Even Mazixuan, who was put on the ground by Chen Ronghuo, looked at Chen Ronghuo in surprise, wondering what Chen Ronghuo was doing. What method does it take to increase a person's longevity? How could Chen Ronghuo, a small third-level cultivator, have such a method? Even if Chen Ronghuo has such a method, or if he really has a treasure that can increase longevity, is he really a saint and would use such a treasure on an old man who is just at the early stage of the second level? and judging by what the old man said, he was almost at the end of his life. It doesn't take much thinking to know what the talent of such a cultivator who is approaching the end of his life and is just at the beginning of the second level. But Chen Ronghuo didn't fall out with him as soon as he returned to his territory, which made Xuanhuan feel more relieved about Chen Ronghuo. "Lord, can you really increase my longevity and cultivation?" Wang Chao tentatively spoke. Although he knew that such a thing was unlikely, at this moment, even with his temperament, his heart was inevitably filled with ups and downs. "Of course you can." Chen Ronghuo smiled. Without waiting for Wang Chao to make any guarantee, he stepped forward, stretched out his left hand, and randomly made a handprint. Then he stretched out his middle finger and stroked down the ravine between Wang Chao's eyebrows. After this stroke, he immediately integrated more than a dozen qi and blood attributes into the body of the dynasty. Not far away, Xuanhuan looked strange. When Chen Ronghuo's handprint was drawn out, and when that finger was drawn out, he clearly didn't feel a trace of energy. In this case, what is Chen Ronghuo doing? Liar. Is this necessary? He was really puzzled. Boom. But just when he was thinking this, he was suddenly shocked to find that the dynasty not far away, after Chen Ronghuo scratched his middle finger from the center of his eyebrow, his aura suddenly became fierce and fierce. The clothes on the dynasty's body are automatic in the absence of wind. It was like the momentum released from Wang Chao's body turned into a strong wind, blowing wantonly. And Wang Chao's Queen of God had a mysterious bow shadow, looming and emitting a terrifying chill, which made him dare not look at it anymore. Second stage, middle stage, second stage, late stage, second stage, peak. Third stage. Third stage, middle stage, third stage, late stage. At the same time, Wang Chao's cultivation was like a rocket, soaring rapidly. Xuanhuan's mouth opened wider and wider. He looked at the scene in disbelief. Third stage, and it was still the third stage, late stage. In a short period of time, a person's cultivation was raised from the second stage, early stage, to the third stage, late stage. What kind of means is this? God. Is this brother Wang really the brother Wang that he knows? Since he has such means, why is his cultivation only the third stage, early stage? Could this person actually be one of the super strong people in the legendary game World of Gods? Is his third stage, early stage cultivation just a casual remark? At this moment, Xuanhuan's thoughts were endless. And each one was weirder than the other. Plop. Just when Xuanhuan was daydreaming, Wang Chao, after his cultivation level soared to the late third stage, felt the incomparable power in his body, which seemed to be able to break through everything. He broke through with a plop and knelt in front of Chen Ronghuo, tears streaming down his face. Your subordinate Wang Chao greets the Lord. He has lived for 150 years, and has been in despair for 150 years. Until today, he felt that he had cleared the fog that blocked him and saw the true appearance of this world. Be a headline party Yuan at #Yuan. @Yuan.